Sifhei, it's on page Ches. So the last point we learned yesterday, the Rebbe is explaining what it says in the Medrash and what the Alter Rebbe quotes in Tanya. The purpose of creation is in the worlds here below, the physical world here below. And the Chiddush of the Alter Rebbe is that this idea is something that's mukhrach. You could explain it al pi seichel if you take a look at creation, the existence of Atzilus, the existence of the Olam Hazeh Tachten. So it could be explained that there's a hechrich to say that the kavanah is dafke here below. What is there to be gained? This is a safe right here. What is there to be gained dafke in the world below that there is no answer to, as we'll see soon. But the fact that there is something, the fact that the kavanah of creation is dafke Olam Hazeh Tachten and not any of the highest spiritual worlds, that's something which is mukhrach. What was the hechrich? So the lashon of the Alter Rebbe is hoyel v'lahem yiride ma'or panav yizbarach, because the existence of any of the other worlds are a yiride ma'or panav yizbarach. What's the pshat yiride ma'or panav yizbarach? So the Rebbe gave two pirushim. One pshat is whatever exists in Atzilus existed previously in a higher state, higher than Atzilus. There's nothing new in Atzilus. Absolutely nothing new. The only thing that happened in Atzilus is a yiride. So it can't be that the kavanah is for Atzilus if what's there was there before. It's the exact same thing. The only change is that there's the same thing in a matzav of Yerida. That's one point. The other point that Rebbe says is Atzilus is Giluyim. Olam Hazeh Tachten has the very essence of Hashem invested in it to create Yesh Ma'ayin. So you can't say that the existence of Olam Hazeh Tachten, which is Yesh Ma'ayin, which is from Atzmos, is all for the purpose of the higher worlds, which are only Giluyim. Those are the 2 points that I've explained yesterday. We spoke about it more by Ichis yesterday, but that's the Nekuda. So now here in Sifhei, the Rebbe will address a question regarding Atzilus. As we said before, that Atzilus is that place which is only Gilui HaHelim, meaning that whatever exists in Atzilus is a revelation of what was before. There's nothing new in the world of Atzilus. There's no concept of Yesh Ma'ayin in the world of Atzilus. So the Rebbe addresses that it's not necessarily the case. We do find, according to some opinions, that the expression of Yesh Ma'ayin is said also regarding Atzilus. Let's see inside. Beginning of Vaishei is not an easy inyan to understand. I'm just telling you in advance before I read it inside. Very difficult inyan. And really, in order to understand what the Rebbe here says properly, we would have to take a break and learn many, many pages of Chassidus and come back to see what it says here. I'm going to share the basic facts and ideas to try to explain it as clearly as possible without spending weeks and weeks on understanding these 5 lines. Let's see. Hinei loy mi boyem. Needless to say that the point that we said before is true. According to the opinion that the Tzemach Tzedek quotes in a Maamar, Shegam HaKelim d'Atzilus, that even the Kelim of Atzilus, hu Gilui HaHelim, is also defined as Gilui HaHelim. So what is the Rebbe referring to over here? There's an argument regarding the existence of the world in Atzilus. So this is a machlokes that goes back by the early Mekubalim, starting from the Zman of the Rishonim. The early Mekubalim argued about Bechlal, the pshat of the Spheres. And the way Chassidus teaches this machlokes, it's negayah to the be'ikr, to the kelim of Atzilus. As we know, the spheres are combined of 2 parts, the oiris and the kelim. Just like in every other existence that we know in this world as well. There's the energy, the ruchnius, the neshama, and the guf in the existence of the person's body. The guf contains his neshama, the neshama is the energy, the chayas alaki. The same thing also lamaila, in the spheres of Atzilus, there are the oiris and the kelim. Now the question is, the kelim, we pretty much know what they are. We can define what the kelim are. The kelim is chesed, gvura, teferes, the particular the defined existence that this is dafke chesed and it functions in a matter of chesed, and this is designed specifically for gvura, and they're different. There could be even opposites. That's the concept of kelim. Now the big question is, this existence of chesed as it is in kelim, where it's developed and defined specifically, how about in the oiris before it comes into the kelim that contain them and define them? Is there the existence of chesed, gvura in the oir itself? That's the big question that Chassidus discusses. Should you say that be'emes, in the revelation of the oir, the way it comes from its source, it contains in a very, very sublime potential state the existence of all the 10 spheres, Chesed, Gvura, and Teferes. Elamai, in the Oir, it's all there in a very potential state. It can't be expressed and defined and function in a very particular way as it is in the Kalim. The Kalim is just revealing the potential that already exists in the Oir. Part of the existence of the Oir itself, what is the Oir? The Oir represents the unlimited powers of Hashem. That's really the definition of Oir. Part of the unlimited powers of Hashem is the fact that He's able and capable of everything and anything. Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, whatever kinds of abilities there are in the spheres, that's really all part of the Bli Gvul of the Eibishter Himself. Elamai, within the Bli Gvul, within the unlimited powers of the Eibishter Himself, over there, Chesed is not noticeable or recognized as one entity. Gvura is not recognized as another entity. It's all part of the unlimited powers of Hashem. And therefore there, Chesed and Gvura are not recognized as separate. They're all there in a state of potential. Now, in the Kalim define them. The Kalim separates that this is Chesed and this is the function of Gvura, and this is the Teferes, and so on. If we're going to look at Kalim in that way, if that's what the relationship of the Eiris and the Kalim of the Spheres of Atzilus is, so then Kalim again is not anything new. The Kalim is merely revealing the existence of Chesed Gvura that exists in its potential state in the Eir, and in the Kalim it defines it and contains it and brings it out and expresses it in a more concrete way. That's all that the function of Kalim is. So it's still Gilui HaHelam. It's revealing what's concealed in the Eir. But then there's another opinion, which the Rebbe is going to quote momentarily, that the pshat of Kalim is a Chiddush. There's something that's really new in Kalim that you don't have in Eir. Kalim is one thing, Oir is another thing, it's two different things. Oir expresses the Bli Gvul of Hashem, and the Eibishter Himself is Poshet B'tachlis Apshitis. Simplicity in the sense of that there is no tzir there. It can't be defined in any way. Not only can it not be defined in any concrete way, that this is Chesed, this is Gvura, there isn't even a potential of Chesed and Gvura there either. What Oir expresses is the Eibishter's Bli Gvul power that has no definition whatsoever. It's Poshet. It doesn't relate to any particular function whatsoever, not even in the most sublime potential state at all. Kalim is the source of the existence of a tzir, the existence of a function, of Chesed, of Gvura, of Teferes, the fact that the unlimited powers of Hashem could be limited and defined and effective in one particular way or another particular way. That's a Chiddush of Kalim. That's something that Kalim introduces, and Kalim has its own source. It's a separate union of the Oir. It's Yesh Ma'ayin. It's a Dova Chodosh. There's the unlimited powers of Hashem that's expressed through the Oir in Atzilus, and the Kalim is a separate thing that's Mechadish, the existence that the Eibishter functions through these particular ways. So l'chayra, if that's the pshat, as much as it's true that Olam Haza Agashmi, the existence of a physical entity, a Yesh, a Gashmi, is a new entity that Hashem creates. Of course, everything comes from Hashem, but Hashem creates a new entity, Yesh Ma'ayin. So too, the fact that there's an existence of Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, is a new function, a new existence of Yesh Ma'ayin that the Eibishter creates. That the Eibishter's unlimited ability could come and function and be effective through these particular midas, these particular spheres. It's new. It's a Dava Chadash. As much as the Gashmi is a Dava Chadash, the Kalim is also a Dava Chadash. And so if so, the question over here is going to be, as just like we said, that the Dafkin Olam Haza Gashmi, you have the revelation of Atzmos that creates a Dava Chadash. Maybe we could apply the same thing to Atzilus. Divide the world of Atzilus into two. There's the Eiris of Atzilus. There's the Kalim of Atzilus. The Eiris is a direct expression of the Eibishter, which is not a Dava Chadash. Mashenken Kalim is the Eibishter creates a new existence of these functions of Chesed and Gvura, and that is only the power of the essence of Hashem Himself could do, and therefore maybe we should say that over there is expressed the very essence of Hashem. So why should the Kavanah be Dafka here in Tachtainim? That's the question of the Rebbe. Let's see inside.
So the Eiris don't have potential even for Chesed?
Let's see inside. This is a small part of the picture. There's a hemshech here, but this is the pshat in the question. Let's continue. Shagam again. So loy mi boyel ashit shmei viad morat samach tzedek shagam akelim dat zilus ogilei ahelem. Needless to say that the opinion that says that the Kelim of Atzilus are defined as Gilei Helem. They are merely revealing what existed before in the light, in the revelation of the unlimited powers of Hashem, in a concealed state. They reveal them to L'shituzu, according to this opinion. Harei bevadai eina kavana b'shvila Atzilus. Most definitely the point that we said in the previous ice, that the world was not created for Atzilus. Why not? Ki harei yiride v'rak giluyim. So we said there because number one, it's a yiride. Yiride from what was before. Whatever exists in Atzilus existed before and is just coming out on a lower level. So there's nothing new here. And then the other point is that we said v'rak giluyim. And this is all expressions of Hashem. It doesn't relate to the very essence of Hashem. And the world, Olam Hazeh Tachtin, does have the essence of Hashem invested in it. So you can't say that Giluyim, that Atzmos, is for a world which is Giluyim. So that's understood. Elagam, Lashita Shniyam, according to the second Pshat, Shemei Visham that he brings over there, Shakelim Him Briya Yashmayim. The Kelim of Atzilus are Briya Yashmayim. Similar to Olam Hazeh Gashmi, which is Yashmayim, the Kelim are also Yashmayim. So then why shouldn't we say then that maybe the Kavanah is for the Kelim of Atzilus which are Yashmayim? So the Rebbe qualifies this concept. What does it mean that the Kelim of Atzilus are Yashmayim? Is it the same as the concept of Yashmayim that we refer to as Olam Hazeh Agashmi? The Yesh Agashmi is Yashmayim? Is that the same Yashmayim? So the Rebbe says no. It's not the same kind of Yashmayim. It's explained in other places. Shema Sha'anu Eimrim. This that we say, Sha'kelim and Briya Yashmayin, that the Kelim of Atzilus are Yashmayin, they're in something new that does not exist before. Eina Kavana Yashmayin Mamish. It doesn't mean in the literal sense that it's Yashmayin, like we say regarding the existence of the Yesh Agashmi, that's Taka Yashmayin. That's something that comes from nothing. And that expresses the true essence of Hashem. When it comes to the Kelim of Atzilus, though, it's not really Yashmayin. It doesn't express the essence of Hashem because it's not the literal idea of Yashmayin. Kiyim. So then why, according to this opinion, do they refer to the Kelim as Yashmayin? Zeu dafke legabi oir. In contrast to what oir is, in contrast to what oir expresses with its revelation, what the Kelim express with what they do when they contain and they define Chesed and Gvura, you compare that to the oir, it's called Yashmayin, but it's not really the concept of Yashmayin. So the Rebbe explains what is the Lashon of Yashmayin and why would it be called Yashmayin in contrast to the oir. So here the Rebbe says as follows, and here the Rebbe introduces a whole new inyan, which needs a long hesber. We'll try to do this bekitzer and to the point. Mipnei, and the point here is Shashayrish HaKelim MaRishima. The source of Kelim comes from Rishima, which literally means the leftover mark of before Tzimtzum that remained there even after Tzimtzum. What the Rebbe is referring to over here is, it says, as we know in Kabbalah, this is quoted many, many times in the beginning of Eitz Chaim, that when the Eibusha created the world, he removed, there was the Tzimtzum Arishan. There's many Tzimtzumim, but the Tzimtzum Arishan is the most significant one. What happened in the case of the Tzimtzum Arishan? The Eibusha completely removed all of the revelation of Bli Gvul that existed before Tzimtzum, and what remained was a Chalal HaMakom Pani, a void, an empty space, that allows for the existence of Seder Ishtalshalus and a Metzias of Welt to come into existence. That's what happens by Tzimtzum Arishan. But it says in Kabbalah, besides a Rishima, there was a Reishim, a mark, a leftover of something of before Tzimtzum that remained, that was not completely removed. What is this all about? What's this mark that was left over? So what's explained in Chassidus is, as much as the Eibishter has the power and is Bli Gvul, he's infinite, the koyach of Gvul to function and do things in a limited way is also part of his infinite powers, is also part of his existence. Gvul and Bli Gvul are both there. You can't limit and say that the Eibishter only is Bli Gvul and not Gvul. When the Eibishter removes his infinite existence in order to allow for a limited world to emerge and come into being, so the Bli Gvul, the Oyer HaBli Gvul is removed. That's completely removed or concealed. That's the real, it says the Lashon Siluk, because it's B'derech Siluk, but what it really means is it's totally concealed, and the Oyer HaGvul remains there. That's a Reishim that's left over, that's remained, that's not removed from its place. That's the pshat of the Rishima that the Rebbe is talking about over here. Let me explain. Let me give a simple mashal b'negei to the hashpah of Rav and Talmud, which Chassidus gives. When you have a hashpah from a Rav and Talmud, there's the idea, there's the concept that the Rav is trying to share. And he's sharing it to a Talmud that's be'ein aroich on a completely different level than the teacher. So there's the oira b'ligvul, so to speak, which in the mashal would be the idea and the concept that the Rav is sharing. But then there's the oisius, the letters, the words that he chooses to put those ideas into in order to share it. Every time you have a dvar seichel, there's two components. There's the idea, and then there's the limiting aspect of the idea that he shares. If the idea that he shares does not have a design, a beginning, middle, and end, and particular words and sentences and paragraphs that he's sharing the inyan in, so then the idea will not come across. And it's the same thing also b'chsav. When you write something, you look at an idea that's written in a sefer, there's a concept that's being shared, and then there's the actual letters, there's the actual words. Each letter makes up a word, and then the word makes up a sentence, the words make up sentences, and so on. So the actual words itself is the kaballah, the limiting aspect of this dvar seichel in order for it to be able to carry through. If you remove the idea, if you remove the concept, and all that's left is the oisius, just the oisius alone, that are there without any dvar seichel whatsoever. If a chacham gadol, instead of sharing the dvar seichel through the oisius, he just jots down a few words for himself, as like taking notes for himself in order to not forget the idea. So he takes some notes and he writes down the idea on a piece of paper, and someone else would look at these words. All he would see is just some words. The few words that encapsulate the idea, but you don't see the concept. He won't notice at all. He'll see just words, which is the gvul of it. The fact that he can condense the idea into these few limited words, but the concept will not come across. Right? So those are the two aspects that exist in a revelation of a person, in a hashpah that comes out of a person. So just as it is over here lamata by a human being, so the same thing lahavdil lamayla also. There's the koyach habligvul, which expresses the entity of Hashem, expresses the bligvul of the Eibusher that existed before any tzimtzum whatsoever. But then there's the koyach hagvul. What's the koyach hagvul? The power to limit, the power to conceal, the power to withhold. That power is also there. When tzimtzum happens, in order to allow the world to come into existence, the koyach habligvul is removed. Otherwise, the world can't exist. But the koyach hagvul, which is what's called the rishima, the leftover, that remains. That koyach hagvul remains, and that is the shayrish of kalim. The fact that, what do kalim really do? Kalim take the oir and define them, contain them. Because if the oir doesn't have that container, it won't be effective. Then it's bligvul, it can't function and be effective in one particular way. The kalim is the koyach to limit and to define and to conceal the unlimited power of the oir. What's the oir itself? The oir is fakert. The oir is there to reveal and to express the unlimited source, not to conceal. Oir and kalim, when you look at it really, from this angle for sure, are really opposites. Oir is about revealing what is in the source, like in the mashal I said before, to share the ideas that the person has. Kalim is about limiting it, about concealing it. If a Rav will share with a Talmud the full idea that he has in his head, which for the world of the Talmud is bligvul, he'll overwhelm the Talmud. The Talmud won't understand what he's saying. He won't get it. It's not organized either. It would be too much for him. The kalim is what makes it possible. How? Through concealing what's really going on in the world of the Rav, that the Talmud should be able to receive what he has. So really, in essence, the difference between oir and keli is the source of oiris is the koyach hagili of the Eibishter, to reveal, to express, to give, which is the unlimited power. The koyach of kalim, the source of the koyach of kalim, which comes from what's called the rishima, is the koyach of the Eibishter to limit and to conceal. And that remains, that tzimtzum doesn't affect that, and that's the shayrish of kalim. So what's the significance of this? Now let's continue inside now. The source of the kalim, me'arishima, comes from this level of the koyach of the Eibusher to conceal, which is called Rishima. Shehi b'chinas helam. This koyach is a koyach of helam, a koyach to conceal. L'chein gam mitziyusan. So therefore also the existence of the kalim themselves, hu ba'ofen shemekoyram behelam. They, in their relationship to their source, is behelam. When you look at the kalim themselves, they function in a similar way to the way their very source itself is, which is that there's a disconnect there's a helem, they don't feel the connection to their source, which is the exact opposite of the way oir functions. What's the whole idea of an oir? You take a look at oir, you see, it takes you back to the source. That's what Chassidus always says, right? Oir is me'ein amor. You look at the oir, it tells you the nature of the source, because that's the whole concept of what oir is. Oir is about expressing and giving what there is in the source. You look at the oir, it tells you the nature of what there is in the source. Kalim is the exact opposite. The source of Kalim is the power of Hashem to conceal. So therefore, Kalim themselves, when they exist, are also functioning in a way that you don't see their connection to their source. You look at Kalim themselves, there's a disconnect to the source. They seem to be a new inyan that's not connected at all to the source. But that itself is takemitzad what the nature of the source is, because the nature of the very source is that this is the koyach hahelem of the Eibishter. So therefore, Kalim as well is a koyach hahelem, is a koyach to conceal what exists in the source. So when you look at Kalim, you will see an inyan that's new. When you look at Kalim, what you see is a new inyan of gvul that's concealed, that's not related to the source. That's why it's referred to as Yashmayim. When you look at Oir, what do you see in Oir? That Oir is a hamshach. Oir is an outgrowth. Oir brings and draws down and reveals what exists in the source. That's the difference between Oiris and Kalim. So therefore, Legabe Oir, comparing Kalim to Oir, hen kamay briya Yashmayim. The Oir is like, the Kalim that is, are like Yashmayim. That's comparing it to Oir. Since by Oir, when you look at light, the Oir expresses what's in the source. When you look at Kalim conceal what's in the source. So in that aspect, the Kalim is something new. But Kalim, Lagabi, their source, which is the Rishima, Kalim is expressing the power of Gvul that exists in the source, which is the Rishima. So it's not Yeshmayin. It's not truly Yeshmayin like the existence of Yeshmayin in Olam Hazeh Agashmi. So ultimately, the point over here is, the bottom line, the point over here is the fact that there's an existence of Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, which defines the Oir and functions in a particular way, is not anything that comes out of nothing. It's not something that exists that the Eibishter has a koyach. This doesn't express the koyach of the Eibishter, the koyach ha'atzmus, to create something out of nothing. No, this koyach of Helem, that the Eibishter functions through a very concealed way. Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, that's a concealment. That's not the pshitas of the Eibishter. The fact that he functions particularly through Chesed, particularly through Gvura, that's a koyach of Helem, that is defined to this. Where does that come from? The Eibishter has that within himself also, that potential within himself, which is the koyach hagvul. Elamai, it doesn't come from the koyach habli gvul. There are two different koyches. There's the koyach hagvul and the koyach habli gvul. According to this opinion, the shaydish of what Kalim do comes particularly from the Rishima, which is koyach hagvul. It's not related to the koyach habli gvul. It's ki'ilu, two different things. Although it's not exactly two different things, there's much more to this. But according to this shitta, Kalim is koyach hagvul. And therefore, if you look at Kalim in contrast to Oir, it's considered to be Yeshmayim. The other opinion, just going back for a second, the other opinion holds that whatever you have in Kalim, and whatever the Koyach HaGvul of Kalim is, that it defines and it conceals, which is connected to the Rishimu, is also related to the Koyach HaBli Gvul. That also itself exists in a more sublime state, even in Koyach HaBli Gvul Gufa. That itself is part of Koyach HaBli Gvul. So it's not two separate things. But even if we're going to say that Kalim is a separate thing, but it's not Yeshmayim, it's just that what happens in Kalim is concealed and sort of disconnected. It seems to be disconnected from its source because its source is Koyach HaHelem, and the way it comes out is also in a way of Helem, different than the Oir itself. Okay, but the bottom line is that both Oiris and Kalim are all Gilui HaHelem. Okay, move on. If so, the conclusion remains the same. The purpose of creation is not any of the higher worlds, the Ruchniistic worlds, which are Gilui HaHelem, Ki Ma'aved B'Olam Hazeh Iskafi V'Sapcha. The purpose of creation is dafke here in this physical world, and here in this world, what is the Aveda? To subdue the Sitra Achra and to transform the Sitra Achra. That's the conclusion of the scene, going back to the point we said before. The Rebbe continues now with another point. Although today it says, what do we accomplish today? Achshav, today, meaning before Mashiach comes. What do we accomplish? Through doing mitzvahs. Today, the mitzvahs that we do we see the revelation of these mitzvahs here below in this physical world? We're saying that the whole kavanah is to bring the revelation of Adira b'tachtainim. Do we see that revelation of Adira b'tachtainim today when we do mitzvahs? No. So it says that today, until Mashiach comes, the accomplishment of mitzvahs is that it brings a greater revelation where? In the world of Atzilus. So the question is, Vimkain, if so, how do we say Shagam Achshav Ikra Kavana Olam Hazeh that even now the Ikra Kavana of creation is Olam Hazeh? If the mitzvahs we do today, it says bring revelation in the world of Atzilus and not in Olam Hazeh. The Rebbe Marash explains, these revelations that happen in the world of Atzilus, the mashal he gives is, it's like something that's there and it's locked in a box. It's locked in, it's there waiting to be revealed here below. That's the point. Whatever's happening in Atzilus is really all for the purpose of that it's going to bring revelation here in this world below. Elamai, today, the world below is not a keli for it. The world is not fully refined and elevated to be ready to receive the revelation in the Olam Hazeh Tachten. So therefore the place where the effectiveness of mitzvahs are felt is in the world of Atzilus. But whatever happens in the world of Atzilus is all for the purpose of this world here below. It's like when you give a person a gift and the gift is in a closed box. And it's not unwrapped yet. What is the point? That the gift should remain wrapped in the box? No. The whole point is to unwrap it and to reveal it and expose it, that it should come down here into Olam Hazeh Tachten. Ki einam b'shvil Atzilus. Whatever revelations we accomplish through mitzvahs that today are only sensed in the world of Atzilus, but it's not for the purpose of Atzilus itself. Ki im l'tzayrich Olam Tachten. It's only for the purpose of Olam Tachten. Ve'einam misgalam b'Atzilus. And that purpose, which will ultimately be revealed when Mashiach comes here in the world below, where it will unwrap and we will see the essence of Hashem here in the world below, that's dafke here, the einam is galam b'Atzilus. And that cannot be revealed in the world of Atzilus. So whatever effect is felt in the world of Atzilus is not the real and full purpose and ultimate purpose of what mitzvahs are. There is a certain additional oir that's felt and accomplished in the world of Atzilus, but the full effect and the real purpose of mitzvahs will be revealed only when Mashiach comes and the Olam Hazeh Tachten will be a keli to the revelation of those mitzvahs. Then we will see the effectiveness of those mitzvahs here lamata and Olam Hazeh. Did anyone get anything I said?